Don't hang up that phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling Podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you gotta ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That can only mean one thing. Live after hours with your favorite RCDD. That would be me, of course. Here to answer your questions on installation, certification, design, project management, estimation, DIY, career path, anything that has anything to do with ICT, information, communications, technologies. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. So just realized I didn't button my shirt there. There we go. Now I look professional, don't I? Yes. All right. Welcome, everybody. So you know that we always start off every Thursday night live stream with, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? So I am drinking again ginger root beer, Zevia ginger root beer. Tell me in the chat box, what are you drinking? Remember, this is an after hours live stream, so adult beverages are allowed. Yeah, I'm just drinking Zevia soda as usual. Getting excited for the holiday season. Next month, I've got a whole bunch of vacation days. By the way, there will not be any social media posts, any podcast posts, any vlog posts, nothing the week of Christmas. I am taking the entire week off from everything, from work, from social media. I am totally unplugging. I tried to do it during Thanksgiving, but I'm still doing social media posts. But Christmas week, it will be totally unplugged. So there you go. Now, you always know, for those who come to the show quite often, you know, we've done the what are you drinking? So the next thing is the acronym challenge, because I am known for the acronym challenge. The acronym challenge for this week is RCDD. What does RCDD stand for? Put your answer in the chat box. Tony Baker is in the house. Tony is one of my, somebody whom I met at a Bixie conference, and we just became friends. He was actually in the last study group. Tony's a great guy, an absolute great guy. Hello, Tony. So what does RCDD stand for? Put the answer down in the chat box. It has something to do with today's show. Yep, something to do with today's show. I'll give you a couple more seconds. I'm going to take another sip of my Zevia drink. Oh, that's good. So RCDD stands for Registered Communications Distribution Designer, RCDD. It is the premier certification. Is it really a certification? I don't think it's a certification. No, Bixie calls it something else. They don't call them certification. They call it something else. Now, Tony, help me out here. The name's escaping. What do they? They don't call them certification. They call it something else. Credential. That's it. I knew it began with a C. Right? So that is their premier credential. I just saw a post just today or yesterday in one of the low voltage forums. I'm in a lot of them. If I'm not in your low voltage forum, let me know what it is and where it is, and if I can, I will definitely get into it. Look who's in the house. Oh my gosh. The infamous Gene. How you doing? You know, I'm still trying to get you on the show. Still trying to get you on the show. I got a whole bunch of vacation days in December. We can make it work. I got to get you on the show. Got to get you on the show. So it's the premier credential. So anyway, there was an argument, not an argument. Somebody posted in one of the low voltage communities things, is a Bixie certification worth it? Absolutely worth it, right? Right. So Jane, tell me if your certification was worth it. Tony, you teach those classes. Are they worth it? Right? Are they worth it? Put that. Let's share some information out there, right? They are absolutely worth it. Getting my RCDD and my Bixie technician absolutely launched my career. I really wish I'd done it earlier, but I didn't. So we got a lot of great episodes coming up in the next few weeks. Let's talk about those real quickly. Next Monday, the episode will be about how to do a wireless survey. I'm also doing updates with Low Voltage Nation Technology Worldwide. I've got an episode coming up with a ICT legend, Chuck Lowerman. I've got an interview coming up with CompTIA. I've got all different kinds of interviews. I've got like 9 or 10 weeks of interviews lined up. I'm ahead of the schedule. So now what you are actually seeing is episodes have been recorded weeks in the past. And I did a podcast show in Austin at the POE Consortium. So that was really, really cool. So here we go. Here's some expert opinions on does a Bixie certification worth it. So Tony says, yes, indeed. The ICT has changed lives forever. Jane is saying she's a certified fiber optic technician. Same with me with the FOA. It launched my career. So that's the FOA is similar to Bixie. They're two animals of the same general species, but the different breeds, right? So I get asked all the time, which one's better, FOA or the Bixie certification? And I need more information than that to just answer that question, because it kind of depends on what you do, right? It really, really, really does. So I want to announce also, I'm starting another RCDD study group in January of this year. So I've got the QR code right there on the screen, right there. Take your phone, click on it, it'll take you to the page. RCDD study group. Me and Phil Klingsmith, we're both RCDDs. We're both Bixie technicians. We're both trainers. We're both Bixie members of the year. Different years, of course, different years. And we both, he has more experience than me, and I've got 41, 42 years of experience. So RCD study group. And if you're not interested in doing it, and you know somebody who was studying for their certification, the RCD credential, recommend us. Okay. Recommend us. I'm also tinkering. I'm 99% sure I'm going to do this. A study group for people who are going to be taking their Bixie technician test, or study group for people who are going to be taking, their installer copper, installer fiber, because they all study out of the same book. I'm going to do the same thing. Tony, what do you think? If I do the same process as I do with the RCD, because you've been in the RCD study group now, if I do a study group for technicians the same way I do that, do you think that would resonate? Do you think that would help people? Let me know. All right, so let's get on to the questions. I got lots of questions. I don't know if I'm going to get done by 6:30. That's the problem. So the first question is, what are some advanced techniques for cable management in low voltage installations? So cable management is a must. I really think it's a must. You have to have vertical and horizontal wire managers, because if you don't, the patch cables will get damaged. That affects the performance. They might get kinked. It helps make it look nicer. So for racks, you should have a vertical manager on each side of your racks. For horizontal wire management, you should have one above and below every patch panel. Now, with that being said, there are some people out there like Pierce from All Green Lights and some other people where they're doing installations without wire managers, and they're making it look really nice. But I'm always going to default to, you really should use wire managers, because that's going to help maintain that stuff. The second question is, Can I explain the benefits of using plenum rated cables in certain installations? So, plenum and riser rated cables are listed cables. They are tested. The manufacturer sent them to the to an NRTL. They test them. They burn them. The plenum cable produces less smoke and less toxic off gases. Now, the benefit there is it gives people more time to get out of the building, right? Because it takes longer for the smoke to fill up the building. So that's the advantage there for as far as the end user. For you as an installer, I get this question all the time, Chuck. How do I know whether to put in plenum or riser rated cabling? And if you're just not really sure which to use, put in plenum. It's going to cost more, but plenum can be put in everywhere inside of the building. Everywhere inside of the building. Well, let me phrase that. Because you can't put it inside of an air duct. I got a post coming up with that where somebody ran some cables through an air duct. You can only run cables through an air duct if the cable is directly related to the operation of the air HVAC system. And if I remember right, I think it's got to be less than 6 feet in length or 4 feet in length inside the actual duct. So if you're looking at a ceiling, if you don't know if it's a plenum or riser rated ceiling, put plenum cable inside of it. That's going to save you from all kinds of problems down the road because, if you put in the wrong kind of cable and then the fire investigator investigates the fire and realize you put in the wrong kind of products and people got injured, people got hurt, you can be held liable for that. Yep. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And so very, very basic for those who don't know how to tell the difference between plenum and riser rated cables. Every cable has on the cable jacket somewhere, there'll be a bunch of information, and it should say CMP if it's plenum or CMR if it's riser rated. Okay, that's how you can tell. I also get asked quite often, what about low smoke zero halogen? That's not a cable that's recognized by the NEC. So in the US, you still pretty much have to shy away from it. You find a lot of that in Europe, but there was talk of putting it in the code in 2023, but it never made it. So yeah, there you go. Next question is, how can low voltage installers ensure proper bonding and grounding in their projects? Number one, training. Oh, I've got a show coming up. They finally agreed to come on to the show. It won't get recorded till January, probably, right? Or it won't come out till January, late January, with Harger. They make bonding and grounding components. That should be a really, really good show. So number one, get training, right? Because number one, you have to understand there's a difference between the words bonding and grounding. A lot of people don't understand those differences. When you are bonding something, you're making two pieces of metal electrically continuous. So when you run that number 6 wire from the bus bar to the rack, you're bonding that rack to a ground. If you're driving a ground rod into the earth, you're grounding something. So that's the get training. And then there's very specific ways that you use to install it. And that's why I said you need to get the training. There's the 4-prong earth maker where you have to do prospecting. There's a way you can measure everything. A good resource is Mike Holtz. He has a lot of information. He's more electrical than he is low voltage, but he has a lot of bonding and grounding stuff that's pretty good. So get that information and use it. And then also make sure that you're using the right kind of connectors. You're not exceeding bend radiuses, and everything will be fine. And label everything, because bonding and grounding is going to help that cable plant perform better, and it's also going to help people from getting injured. So make sure you do it right. And I could actually do 2 shows on bonding and grounding. That's why I'm not going to dive too deep in it here. Maybe I should do a class on that. You know, I have a fire stopping class, right? I'm recording it this month, and I'm going to put it up on Teachable, so you'll be able to take the fire stopping class, and it will be recognized. Well, actually, it is recognized for continuing education credits. I just got to record it. Just got to record it and get it posted. So there you go. Lots of vacation time, plenty of opportunities to do that. The next question is, what strategies can low voltage installers use to optimize the cable testing process? Number one, get good equipment. Know and back up one step before that. Know what your requirements are, because there's certifiers, there's verifiers, and there's qualifiers. And know what you're trying to do. If you're just testing, just to make sure everything's working right, that's one tester. If you're trying to test to get a manufacturer warranty, that's another type of tester. Did a whole show on that. Go look in the back history. We talked about all that. So know what you're trying to do. Invest in a good quality equipment. Then the next thing is train everybody on how to use that piece of equipment. All of the test manufacturers will come in and give you free classes on their testing equipment. They'll absolutely will do that. I don't know of any that won't. And there's some really good testing platforms out there. Like Fluke has a really good, they actually have a certification class you can take on to become a certified tester with their equipment. But get that training. The next thing is to have a testing plan. Now, this is corporate wide or company wide. So the testing plan, number one, should identify training. How you're going to get the training, who needs to be trained, how often they need to be retrained, how you can train new people. The second part of that testing plan should tell about the equipment, how you're going to take care of it, how is it going to get sent back for calibration, what is the process for downloading test results, what's the process for sharing that information with the customer. Is it going to be in PDFs? Is it going to be in the native format of the tester, right? And then the second part is the inspection process. Whenever somebody picks up a tester, what should they look at? What are they looking for? What to do if they find something wrong? And then finally, any good test plan should also talk about. Oh, my mind just pulled a blank on me. I'll come back to that one in a second. Oh, no, it is calibration. Who is responsible for maintaining the calibration? This is a live show. Who is responsible for maintaining the calibration of that piece of equipment? Because per the standards, test equipment has to be calibrated every 12 months. Most manufacturers require that test to be calibrated within 12 months. So who's responsible for that? How do they do it? How do they track it? What are you going to do if you only have one certifier in the company and it's out to being calibrated? What's the workaround process for that? These are things that should be in that test plan. And then also teach the technicians on how to read a test result. Now you're probably wondering, well, why should I do that? If it just says pass or fail, good to go. What if you get a star pass? What if you get a star fail? What do you do? What do you check? If you fail because of insertion loss, what are the reasons, plural reasons, that it's failing that? Because it's not always because it's the longest length. So if you teach them how to interpret that results, that's going to make them more efficient in the field. Okay, there you go. Just some tips. Next question. How do you handle interference issues in low voltage installations, especially in complex environments? Well, number one, stay away from all potential sources of EMI. That's electrical cables. That's fluorescent light fixtures. If you're doing work in like bars and stuff, or AEV and stuff, stay away from those neon lights. Stay away from conduit. A lot of people don't realize we have a separation. If our stuff's in conduit and the electrician's in conduit, there's a minimum of a 6-inch separation there, right? So the step number one is stay away from everything. But sometimes the interference is not coming from within the building. I did a project once when I was a younger guy that was having a lot of issues from EMI. And when we brought in an expert, we found out that there was a television station 2 blocks away from us. And we had to go back and replace everything with shielded cabling. So it's not always inside of the building, right? Make sure that the technicians know the installation processes, because the twist of the pairs helps reduce some of those effects of EMI. So make sure they understand to untwist as little as possible. Now, the standards tells us a 1/2 inch untwist. Okay, 1/2 inch untwist. If you run that jacket all the way up to the very back side of the connector, you will be well within those guidelines. So teach them how to do that. Teach them also to understand how to recognize areas that might need shielded cabling. Example, casinos, hospitals, military bases. If you can think of a place that might need shielded cable, let me know, whether you're in TikTok or one of the other feeds, right? And there's also equipment that you can buy to monitor EMI and RFI. It's been a long time since I've done it, so I don't know what that costs anymore, but if it costs $1,200 to rent a cable certifier, I would have to imagine it would be very similar in price to rent some type of a test equipment that measures for EMI. But you can avoid a lot of it because our cable is pretty resilient. You can avoid a lot of it just by taking the simple steps of knowing to stay away from everything, right? Stay away from everything. I was telling the class today, they said, well, how far should we stay away from electric? 3 football fields. Yep. 3 football fields. That should just about do it. Yep. Yep. So recognize it and then go for it. And understand that if you do shielded cabling, you got to bond that to a ground correctly. That's the key. A lot of people miss that step. Got to bond it to a ground correctly. Next question is, can you explain the process of certifying low voltage installations and why it is important? Oh my gosh. Oh, I just talked about this not too long ago on a live stream, but a manufacturer is going to make you certified. Okay. Most manufacturers will make you certified. That's that very expensive piece of test equipment. But it's my personal feeling that if you're going out and you're doing a project, a brand new project, you get awarded a 75 cable project somewhere. When you get done, you should certify that job. Now we can have a conversation about whether you sell those test results or not, but just for your own protection, you should certify. If you're out there, if it's a service tech and you're just putting in a 1 drop here or 1 drop there, it'd be nice to certify, but you know what? Certifiers aren't cheap. They're not cheap. So the whole certification process, it's pretty simple. Buy that certifier, get training on that certifier. When you go turn on the tester, make sure that it's been calibrated within the past 12 months. Make sure you select the right kind of cable. Make sure you select the right category rating. And understand that some testers are backwards compatible, but not forwards compatible. So you can't use that 5E tester on that 6A job, but you can use that 6A tester on that 5E job. So make sure that's checked. If you're going to be submitting those certifications to a manufacturer, understand what they are going to be expecting to see, right? Is it 0 star passes? Or are they going to expect to see the name of the project? Or are they going to expecting to see the name of the person who did the testing? Or will they just accept a generic, company name instead of somebody's individual name? That's going to vary by manufacturer. It truly is. It truly is. Then when you test the cables, make sure you download them. If you got large, before the cloud, before testers were put on the cloud, a lot of times you'd have a tester, they could literally have a couple thousand test results. And if something happened to the tester, you would lose all those test results. But now with a lot of the testers are on the cloud, you can upload them automatically and those get sent back to the office so that we don't have to worry about things getting lost. Right? Next question. How can low voltage installers effectively manage projects to meet deadlines and budgets? Deadlines and budgets. So from an installer perspective, number one, understand the parameters of the job. Okay. I get this a lot. People will tell me, Chuck, I'm a project manager. Okay. How many hours are in your project? I don't know. How can you be a project manager and not know how many hours are in your project? Do you have a schedule built for that? So there's a lot of things that go into that. I'm going to be doing an episode, a 10-part, 2-part episode. I'm sorry, a class with 10 ideas on project management. That's going to be coming out probably like January, February. So first is understand you have all of the information that you need to know to be successful. If you have a project you're going to be doing, you need to know how many hours are in that project. So that way you know if you're on budget or on time or not. Well, take it back. Budget's a different story. If you're on time or not, right? Because if you're at 105 hours and you still got to do testing, guess what? You're behind the ball. You're behind the ball. Budgeting, it's a little bit different, right? Because you might have had an average crew rate lower than the actual crew rate of the people out there installing because the people who were supposed to be doing that job weren't available. So you could actually burn up your budget before you burn up your hours and vice versa, actually. So, understand that information. So you need to also have some type of resource to track all your stuff, right? So again, Gantt charts, PERT charts, that helps that process. That can also help you identify when certain materials need to be on job site, when certain tasks have to be done, and then make sure that if you're running a crew, that everybody on your crew knows those goals as well. Because if they know there's a goal, they will strive to meet that goal, right? Another thing to help you effectively manage a project is communicate, Communicate, communicate. When a customer comes up and says, hey, can we add on these extra jobs over there? Are you going to extend the schedule? Communicate, communicate, communicate. And if you're on a project and it's a multi-week project and you're running into issues, write weekly progress reports. Put in the good stuff, put in the bad stuff. And then that way, if something happens, you have a documented path of, hey, we were doing a project and we got delayed 5 times this week by this because of this process, because that might be a potential change order, and that can help you get additional time for your schedule and maybe some additional funds as well. Right. The next question, what are some advanced techniques for terminating and splicing fiber optic cabling? Wow. Wow. So fiber termination, you can do, there's lots of methods out there. Going back old school, UV cure, where you had to you put the stuff inside and you put a UV light on and it cured it. You have the 2-part epoxy connectors. Both those are kind of, and hot melts. Those 3 have kind of fallen to the wayside. So now the industry pretty much sticks with, the majority of the time, some type of a mechanical connector, some type of a fusion splice on connector. So now fusion splice on connectors and fusion splice on pigtails are pretty simple, pretty easy. You just got to learn how to use the fusion splicer. And that's not that hard. It's not that hard. So my suggestion is learn how to do fusion splicing and buy the fusion splice on connectors, because that's going to make your job so much easier. And then another advanced technique is learn how to test with an OTDR, an optical loss test set, and how to interpret those results, and when you would use either or. Okay, there's times when you want to use an OTDR. There are times when you might want to use an optical loss test set. It just kind of depends. There's too many variables there. You need more information to process that. And there's a lot of great free resources out there for you. Exfo, they have a great webinar on how to interpret an OTDR trace, right? It's a great thing. And there's lots of free resources out there that you can kind of get that there. And then the biggest thing you can do to be successful with fiber is keeping everything clean. Keeping everything clean. Yes. Clean, a dirty connector, contamination is the number one problem with fiber. The number one problem. All right, next question. How do you stay updated with the latest low voltage technologies and industry trends as an experienced installer? Why, subscribe to the Let's Talk Cabling podcast, of course. I'm sorry. I'm getting hungry. Yeah, low blood sugar. I'm getting hungry. Getting hungry. Wonder what Mama's making for dinner. Oh, and I got ADHD on top of that. There's lots of ways. Lots of ways. So the first way that most people come back with, oh, got to get certified. Okay. I highly recommend training courses and getting certified. I highly recommend them. But sometimes, depending on your situation, you might have just got hired by a company and they want to see if you're going to stick around before they put you in a $3,000 class, right? So then, you may not always be afforded that availability. But if you got the money, go ahead and pay for it yourself. That way you got your own certification. You don't have to sign a training agreement, right? That's always a good thing. So get those. Also, engage with industry experts and your peers. The best way to do that is social media. It's the best way. Now, I get asked, because people know that I'm all over social media. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. The best way to get in touch with your peers, 90% of the time, is going to be through LinkedIn. Do you know how many times that I said, hey, I want to do a show about X, Y, and Z? And then I would get on LinkedIn and I'd say, who is an expert in X, Y, and Z? I'd pull up the list and I'd already be friends with them. I'd reach out to that person. Hey, look, I want to do a show on such and such. You want to come on the show? Or, hey, I got a question for you. Can you help with that? That's free. That doesn't cost you anything. You just got to engage them. And you never know. You might develop a contact for a future project, a future job. And also go to the industry events. Like, for example, the Big C Winter Conference is coming up in 2 months, right? 2 months. Chuck will be there at the Winter Conference, by the way. Chuck will be there for the winter conference. So I just don't know if I'm going to be there on the first day of the conference or not. That's the key. I got a class scheduled at that time, but don't know yet. But I will be there, so stay tuned. I might have some kind of a meetup while I'm there. And then the other way that you can stay updated is to subscribe to and read Cable Installation Maintenance Magazine, and then watch their webinars. Again, free. Both of them are free, and it's an easy way to stay current. And you might want to consider. There's lots of free webinars out there. Again, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll see them all the time. People doing free webinars and stuff. Watch those webinars. Right? Watch those webinars, and then maybe also join a professional organization like Bixie, because they have the mentorship program and a bunch of other things that you can do. Do as well. Next question. This is the last question. Can you share tips for troubleshooting common issues encountered during low voltage installations? Can you share tips for troubleshooting? Half chunking. Yeah. Half chunking means you go to the middle of the problem. You test it that way. If it tests good, then the problem has to be that half. You go to that half, and then you just keep working your way down. So what that does is it gives you a systematic way to identify and chase down the root cause. All right? And also make sure you have the right diagnostic tools. Cable Certifier will certainly help. If it's an EMI issue, a certifier is not going to help you any. If it's a crosstalk issue, a continuity tester is not going to help you test that. A continuity tester will still say it's good or bad. It's got continuity. It's the reversal's right, but it's not picking up the crosstalk. So make sure that you use the right tools. And sometimes, I'm probably going to get flack for this. Sometimes a simple voltmeter is all that you need. And you can pick up a nice voltmeter for $50 or less. Check out Ed, the old tech guy. I guarantee he's probably done a webinar or a thing on that already. Also do visual inspections. Make sure you look at the connectors, make sure nothing is damaged, and then also review all the documentation as well. So there's the questions for tonight. Let me flip back over, see here. We had a whole bunch of people come in. All righty. Good equipment. Tony recommends good equipment. Absolutely. Mark is in the house. Hey, Mark. I missed you. I had the other screen up, but I didn't see the chat thing there. So, and then Jane here says they abandoned epoxy, UV, and hot melts because of the ROC was not lining up with today's broadband needs. So they might have done that with broadband fiber optic networks, Jane. But I'm telling you now, there's still some pockets of customers in the U.S. that's all they've got on their campus, and they don't want to change connectors. It's a very, very small percentage, but they're still out there. So I know several manufacturers, they're still selling the 2-part epoxy connectors. I'm not sure if 3M is still selling the hot melts or not, though. So I'm not sure about that. Oh, radius of curve. Oh, there you go. See, I just learned a new acronym there. I thought you meant return on cost. Oops. All righty, everybody. So we are at 30 minutes. I appreciate everybody coming on today. Until next time, remember, knowledge is power. Take care, everybody.